Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, today I wanted to do a bit of a guide. This guide is going to be focused on 5 ways for you to stop breaking your Wuthering Waves rotations. And by breaking your rotation, I basically mean going ahead and doing something a little bit suboptimal, right? Letting full animations play out, not fully capitalizing everything that a kit can offer. And naturally, as I'm going through some of these tutorials, as I'm talking about some of these tips, keep in mind that these are going to be small optimizations that will save you a couple of seconds, but they won't necessarily be the difference between you clearing or not clearing if things like your echo investment, the weapons that you're using, all of that aren't necessarily up to cuff. So with that in mind, let's go ahead, let's get it all started. We're going to be using some of the more popular characters that are going to be available currently. Think your units like your Shorekeepers, your Mortefis, your Verinas, your Augustas, so on and so forth. So with that in mind, let's go ahead, let's get ourselves started with what I believe to be the most helpful tip for most players out there, and that's going to be brushing up on your Shorekeeper's rotation. Because Shorekeeper is a character where she actually has a lot of room for additional complexity and optimization, but you can still get a lot of results out of her playing her very simply. So let's just go ahead. We're gonna do a baseline rotation first, and then show you what it looks like when you're spicing it up a little bit. So this is just the team that we're going in with. No real concerns. All right, so this is what this is what their Shorekeeper rotation looks like. They might skill first, and then build up, you know, their forte. And then after maybe 2, maybe 3, they'll use their liberation. You saw, that was pretty fast, right? That was pretty fast. And one of the reasons why that was fast is because I have this weapon called Variation. And this gives me concerto energy, allows me to rotate faster. However, what happens if I were to equip something else and do that same exact rotation? Imagine that I don't have Stellar Symphony. Imagine that I don't have Variation. Let's see what the pace is looking like. So we do about 2. It's basically the same exact pace, right? We got to attack a little bit more at the end, about a second or 2 longer. Now let's see what it looks like when we're actually utilizing every single cancel that's available in Shorekeeper's kit. And you'll see that I'm going to be pressing the buttons in a bit of a different order. So this is how it goes. The stage will start, you'll be on Shorekeeper, right? You'll basic attack 3 times, and then during the animation of your 3rd basic attack, you'll use your skill. This is because Shorekeeper's 3rd basic, let me just show you guys all over here. Shorekeeper's 3rd basic actually hits 2 times. So yeah, we're just gonna wait. 1, 2, 3. And you'll notice my forte went up to 4, even though I only used 3 attacks. And then we cancel the animation of her 3rd attack with the skill, because it's kind of long, right? This is the one that pulls the enemies in. That one over there, and that's the one that we're canceling. Shorekeeper's skill can also parry, and it's pretty cool. So that's only the first step of the rotation. Let's keep going a little bit further. So we do 1, 2, 3. Then we do another basic attack, and then heavy attack, dash cancel. That got us to 50% of our concerto almost immediately at the start of the rotation. That's pretty good. Now, let's add the follow-up to that rotation. 1, 2, 3, attack. Another attack. Heavy attack, dodge cancel. And you're seeing over here, right? We just do maybe an attack or 2 and we're basically done. So the idea behind Shorekeeper is that you'll cancel the animation of her 3rd attack, either with her skill or a dodge, and then you'll cancel Shorekeeper's forte attack with a skill or a dodge. Most of the time, your skill isn't going to be up for her forte, and so when you're doing your forte heavy attack, you'll just dodge the second it comes out. This is one more time. And that's how fast the rotation looks like. And guys, we're doing this with a rectifier of Voyager on. That is how fast her rotation is with no variation. Now let's see what it looks like with the variation. And yo, what up, Techie? How you doing, man? Hey, glad you're here for the rotation guide. Glad you're here for the rotation guide. This is probably going to be the most helpful stream ever. Hope your break is going well, man. Hope things are going good. Yeah, we're just doing some we're just doing like a 5 tips for Wuwa players right now, running through some stuff. So yeah, that is what the rotation looks like when we didn't have variation. Now let's see what it looks like when we put it all together. We have an R5 variation over here. Let's just do the whole shebang. And you'll see, Shorekeeper's first rotation can actually be really fucking fast. So let's give it a look. With variation at R5, I essentially did not need to do those extra attacks after I did 2 Fortes. And you'll see, holy shit, that was kind of quick. Let me just see over here. I just want to see what the timing is on the stage. How long did it take us to actually do all of that? Less than 7 seconds to intro in on our next teammate. That's a pretty good optimization. And when Shorekeeper's first rotation is what many consider to be one of the more clunky things to do in the game, well, guys, that's just a bit of a bonus to get yourself going. So we've already covered one support that is going to be probably on most of your teams. Now let's talk about another support that most people are going to have as well, and that's going to be Verina. And this is going to be like one of the most beginner tips ever. If you don't know this one, you probably haven't been keeping up too much with like the flow of the game, because I'm just going to be honest here, guys. Most people figured this out within the first couple of months. But of course, there's always going to be newer players. So let's just rehash it once again. This is going to be the fastest way of doing Verina's rotation. And so the odd thing about Verina is that to optimize her rotation, you want to do a couple of things. You never want to use an intro skill on her. And you also don't want to start off your team's battle with her in the first slot. That's because of this. When you start off a TOA run, you want to swap over to Verina immediately. And then do 3 attacks. Because when you do that, you can almost immediately generate a Forte circuit. This is what it looks like when you don't actually swap on Verina. You'll take this long to generate a Forte circuit. That's how long it takes. And when you just swap to her, that's the difference. You're hopefully beginning to see if this character doesn't get hot swapped to without an intro skill, their rotation basically doesn't function. However, when you do that tech, this is how fast it can be. You get the Forte, you E, and yeah, you'll get it done. You'll be able to rotate in about 4 to 5 seconds. And this is the situation, right? I was doing that with a variation. Let's see how fast that rotation looks when I don't have variation. We're just going to go back to Rectifier of Voyager and then give this a bit of a look. And once again, we're not putting Verina in the first slot. So we go ahead, we start off on Mortefi. And unfortunately, right, it's going to take us a little bit longer over here. You're going to have to basically do that full 3rd attack. I got a little bit of extra concerto from dodging over there, but you essentially have to do your full attack string. Right? Like that whole shebang, not just the first 2 attacks, but you'll have to do all 3 of them to fully generate your concerto. And you could clearly see from that example over there, that got me hit, which is like unfortunate, but that is the small advantage that variation is going to give you. Variation is essentially the difference between having to do 1 extra air attack and not having to do the 1 extra air attack. So not having this weapon on Verina is basically like you lose an extra second or 2 on your rotation, but it's not a huge deal. But it is one of the most objectively helpful things you can have for all of your teams, because that's just minus like 2 seconds on every single support that's ever going to be used. So, yeah, it's just, you can kind of see over here, variation is the best weapon in the game, but it's also like not necessarily like the craziest weapon that's gonna like change everything. It just makes things feel a lot smoother. So this has also been a bit of a value analysis over there. Now, let's talk about some of the odd issues that can actually occur in this team in particular. And that's going to be the Augusta, Verina, Mortefi team. And I think that this is an issue that players have likely figured out by now. But if you're newer to the game, or like starting on this version, or you're maybe not even in the TOA or the endgame yet, this is something that might be important as well. And that's going to be the proper way to actually play Verina in this team, because she's got some complications. Augusta has something in her kit called Majesty, and you gotta wait 4 seconds before you start a TOA run to make sure that this Majesty point is there, because she needs 2 of these to use her Liberation. The way Augusta's intro skill, or the way Augusta's outro skill works, is that the recipient of her outro skill must complete their rotation without swapping, or she fucks up hers. And unfortunately, Verina is always the recipient of Augusta's outro skill. So you have to use Verina's outro and you can't swap with her. So let's just show as a bit of a sample what that should look like in your gameplay. I'm just going to be playing this team normally. All right, so we just did our Augusta rotation over here. We're just gonna do our damage. And now, this is where stuff gets a little bit spicy over here. So, Verina's gonna intro skill in, right? You just wanna like skill, and then liberation, and then just jump in the air. And do it that way. Don't bother with her basic attacks if this is the rotation that you're gonna be doing. You just don't wanna do any of that swap nonsense. You just want to get on the ground as soon as you can, skill R, and then start jumping in the air, and then using those attacks. Otherwise, Augusta will not regenerate her Majesty point, and your future rotations are going to be completely, utterly scuffed. And honestly, kind of unplayable. So, that's just a bit of a tip when it comes to using Verina in that team. The last tip that I'll give when it comes to Verina is gonna be one that some players might have realized by now, and that's going to be, well, when you get her S2, I've gotten no dupes over here, by the way. I have the worst 50-50 lost luck ever. She's still at S0 for me. I pulled every character in the game, by the way. She basically gets a variation built into her kit when she's S2. So you eliminate the need for variation at all when you do get her to S2, and you just end up generating an additional Forte circuit when you press a skill. I wish I could demonstrate for you how good the sequence note is, but if my luck keeps up, that's never gonna happen. So yeah, I'll just show you stuff that I can't actually play with. I feel like I'm a Lamborghini car salesman right now, to be honest. It kind of fucking sucks. All right, so now that we covered Verina, now that we covered this situation, now I want to talk about a couple of Mortefi's mechanics, because there is something pretty cool you can do with Mortefi and Shorekeeper. You guys remember my Shorekeeper tip from before, right? You're doing stuff like dodge canceling her long animations. What if you didn't dodge cancel her animations? What if you didn't cancel with her skill? What if you instead swapped? So let's talk a little bit about that. One of the great mechanics about Mortefi, with him also being a lot more popular with new heavy attackers coming out, is when you swap to him, he does the last attack of his attack chain. This is his regular attack chain. I wish he would stop attacking me for a second. Okay. Stop attacking me. So yeah, that's the last hit of his attack chain. Let me show you what you can do as you're constantly swapping back and forth between Shorekeeper and Mortefi on that first rotation. Do you see how fast I'm generating concerto on both characters? You basically want to combo it this way. You want to start off on another character. Go to Mortefi. Skill. Then go back to Mortefi. And you can just use his Forte circuit like that. With 2 quick swaps. And this is the thing. We all know that Shorekeeper has multiple long-ass animations in her kit. Right? She's got this animation over here. Perfect swap window. She got that 3rd basic attack as well. Perfect swap window. And Mortefi can just pop in, throw off those shots, build up his Forte, build up his Concerto for almost no loss at all in your rotation time. And so this is what it looks like when we put it all together using both techs from both characters. And that's that. There's one more I can do. There's like one more optimization I can do. I can make it slightly better. I think this is the fully capped out version. So the goal, right, is to do about 3 of those cancels on Mortefi. The goal is to do about 3 of those cancels on Mortefi. And you'll intro skill in. And because you did that cancel, you should be automatically able to use your Forte circuit. So 1, 2, 3. Swat to Mortefi. Skill. Heavy attack. Swat to Mortefi. Swat to Mortefi again. And then just finish off Shorekeeper's stuff. You'll be in on Mortefi. And then you'll like skill. Liberation. And then go to Augusta, or Gion, whoever you're using, and then do their stuff. The only note that I'll say, if you're using Mortefi with Augusta, you can't do that on your second rotation. It's not legally allowed to do that tech that we just covered in an Augusta team's second rotation. Because of that whole Majesty dynamic that we talked about before, you will lose on Augusta's ultimate point if you're going ahead, right, and swapping during your Shorekeeper's rotation, because she's going to be the recipient of Augusta's outro skill. You can, however, do this on every rotation where Mortefi is not with Augusta, because that restriction is not going to be built into the team. So you can do this with Gion. You can do this with a Zani, I guess, if you're using her. A lot of different ways to put that into practice. But this is one of Mortefi's most advanced techs. This is pretty much the only tech that Mortefi has to like speed up his rotation. And you can see from the timing, he interacts very, very well with Shorekeeper. Verina, on the other hand, you can sort of do it, but it's kind of just faster to let Verina do her own thing because she doesn't really need to swap. She can just kind of get her rotation done immediately. Shorekeeper has swap windows because her animations are long. And so what that means is that Mortefi can come in and then take advantage of it. And now let's talk about our last tech over here. And you'll notice we're talking a lot about sub-DPS characters. And just so you all know, that Mortefi that we just used, as like a final note, that Mortefi that we just used, ladies and gentlemen, he was on Static Mist. He was not on Cadenza. He did not have anything that was boosting his Concerto energy generation. This was all on Static Mist, and his rotations were that fast, all on Static Mist. So that is something to keep in mind. He's also providing that additional buffing ability as well, being on this weapon. Now we're going to talk about another character that can benefit a lot from these swap windows, and that is going to be Sanhua. And this is basically going to be a rundown of what I call the naked Sanhua build. And I call it the naked Sanhua build because you don't need any investment on her, because she's basically just an echo skill. She's not there to do any damage at all. And you put on a weapon like Overture on her just to increase her Concerto gain and allow her to effectively have no rotation time. I'll show you how this gets done. She can effectively have 0 field time, and I'm just gonna be honest, it's kind of crazy. we're going to be using and just slotting in a Sanhua over here. She's going to be on Overture. And let me show you all what a regular Sanhua rotation usually looks like. Let's just use our Shorekeeper tech over here. We'll like skill, liberation, and then we'll heavy attack, right? Pretty fast, right? But this is the thing. We can actually go faster. Are you ready? Get ready for this one, lads. So, while Shorekeeper's doing a heavy attack, we're actually going to go over to Sanhua and then detonate everything. And you'll notice she's at literally full concerto while off field. She's at full concerto while off field. And so when we swap to her, we can literally just do this. That's a double intro skill used. We used the Heron as well. And we did basically 2 intro skills right after each other, because of how Sanhua can interact with Overture. Overture's bonus concerto effectively allows her to have no rotation time if you go through her detonation combo while another animation is playing. So let's repeat that one more time at full speed. Kind of adjusted it this time. Oh shit, I think I might have canceled my Sanhua's attack. The only thing is that this can take some practice. As you just saw, I messed up over there because I swapped right before my Sanhua's attack actually registered. So let's try it one more time. I don't think my variation is on my Shorekeeper either. So that's what it looks like at full speed. Kind of fast, right? And when you're using this tech in places like Whimpering Waves, in the TOA as well for some additional timing, I'm going to be real here, guys. It gets a little bit... Yeah, it gets a little bit nuts. And there you go. That is the Sanhua 0 rotation time tech. And I'm not gonna lie, it's once you get the hang of it, I don't particularly see a reason not to use it. Because guys, I'm just gonna be real with you. This Sanhua unit is very strong, but damage is not her strong suit. She's not there to deal damage on your team. She also can't buff like Mortefi can buff, right? With like Mortefi over here can buff with Static Mist. The best weapon options you have on her are like other DPS weapons. So it's like, there's not really a reason not to use Overture. This is why I'm saying, if you're a Sanhua player, a copy of Overture, maybe even 2, is one of the most valuable things you can have as a player, because you cannot do this tech without Overture. I also think you might need an R5 Sanhua as well. I think to be able to do this, you might need an R5 Sanhua, or I'm not sure. It might one or the other. There's a sequence node in here, or there's a sequence node I think at S6 or at S5 that like increases her concerto generation. And when you combine that with Overture, you enable this instant intro tech. So that's just something that you can do, but do recognize there are some prerequisites required to make this one happen. If she's on EOG, this isn't going to work. I think R1 Overture plus S5 will enable the rotation that we just talked about over here. And as you saw, it's a pretty fun one to do. Requires a little bit of practice, but overall not too complicated. But yeah, that's going to be all of our general tips and tricks when it comes to either unbricking or really just optimizing your rotations. The goal over here wasn't really to get into like any crazy, absurdly ridiculous quick swap stuff, but to kind of like show you that quick swap is a natural part of the game. Even if you're not like actively like quick swapping between 2 DPS characters, you can almost always do some kind of quick swap between like your support and your sub DPS as you're setting up the rotation, right? And as you saw over here, the optimizations that we did weren't insane, but they saved a lot of time, and they feel pretty damn cool, if I do say so myself. Yeah, that's going to be that for that one, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if there are any questions you still have, if there are any rotation tips and tricks that I missed, and if this type of content is stuff that you're excited to see in the future. We could make this like a monthly, perhaps even weekly thing, depending on the submissions that come in. But yeah, do let me know if there's additional tech like this that you've discovered that other people maybe would want to know about. So yeah, that'll be that for that one, ladies and gents. Let me know what you all thought. Peace.